Hey guys. So I'm sorry first for sending you guys this so late, and it's kind of funny that this course began with video lectures. Now it's going to end with the video lectures, and both of them are in Scotland actually. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do really quickly the lectures on free will. Since I lectured these in class already, I'm just going to do kind of just like a basic description of all of the points so that if you missed something, you can just go back and do the readings. And if you were in class, then this is just going to be a quick recap for you. Um, for the rest of the lectures, there's the thing on psychological egoism. I'm going to have to do that on Tuesday because I'm really busy now, and so I just need to do this. Okay, so here's now the free will issue. Okay, so remember that the free will issue is all beginning with these kind of two intuitions that we have. One intuition is that we're free, and it looks like we're choosing to do various things. It looks like I chose to kind of apply to this talk that I'm going to be giving tomorrow, and that I could have not done that, and it looks like you guys are now going to be watching this. You're going to be watching this at a particular time, but you could also postpone and just watch it some other time, or you might never watch it, or watch it as soon as it's out. Um, so since this is the case, okay, this looks like we are free. But on the other hand, it looks like we're not free because there's lots of things that we seem to be unfree with respect to. So if you think about the fact that uh, look at the way we physically are, right? It looks like whether you're tall or short, whether your hair is of this color or that color, whether your eyes are of this color or that color, what language you speak, what neighborhood you live in, what parents you have. All of this stuff seems to be outside of our control, and you might wonder, if we just take all of the genetic information that we have and all our life experiences, uh, this, we didn't choose our life experiences. Things happen to us in life. And at the same time, we didn't choose our genetic makeup. So this makes it seem like we're really not free. So this is really the free will issue. The free will issue is beginning with this kind of paradoxical situation where we at once seem to be free and at once seem to be unfree. Okay, so um, basically in class, I don't know what to do about this lighting issue. Okay, so maybe I'll just do this. Okay, so in class, I talked about two basic problems. Okay, there's the determinism problem and there's the fatalism problem. And these are two separate problems. You shouldn't run these together because they're importantly different and they say different things. In the reading on fatalism, you can see that determinism entails fatalism. So if you're a determinist, you have to be a fatalist. But if you're a fatalist, you don't have to be a determinist. Uh, Fatalism can be adopted on views other than the deterministic point of view. So what I'm going to do in the lecture is I'm going to talk about, first of all, determinism. I'm going to talk about two forms of determinism. These are what I called in class physical determinism and reasons determinism. Then I'm going to talk about fatalism. Then I'm going to talk about, how we can combine these with different views of free will. And this is what's going to give us compatibilism, incompatibilism, and so on. Okay, so here's the basic thesis of determinism. I'm going to actually just start by stating the physical determinism, and then we'll move to what I called reasons determinism. So in physical determinism, the idea is this, okay? Look, let's just forget about us, forget about whether we're free or not. Let's just look at the physical world and the way the physical world is. So it seems like the physical world works, it's got a particular state, and then this state moves into another state according to some laws. So, for instance, if I pull out my glasses and now I hold these glasses and I let them go, they're going to fall. And pretty much anytime I do that with the glasses, they're going to fall. All, objects which are, of a certain density and mass and so on, if you let them go, they fall. And now, as it so happens, with science, we've discovered that there are rules that govern the transition of objects, physical objects in the universe. Okay, there's rules that dictate their transition from one state into another. So if you start with a billiard ball and now this billiard ball is moving at a particular speed and it bumps against the other billiard ball, that's going to move at a particular speed. And these things are law-like in the sense that, it seems like every time, if you were to do it in exactly the same way, it would happen in exactly the same way. So if you were to push the billiard ball at this angle, at this speed, and it's got the same mass, it's the very same billiard ball, then the moment it hits the other billiard ball, the other one will do something very specific as well. And in fact, you guys know this from our practical experiences because, after all, every time you sit on a chair, the chair holds you up, right? Of course, if it's broken, it might not, but if it's in a good state, it should hold you up. And it would be surprising if one time you sat on the same chair that you usually sit on and you fell through it versus another time where you actually land on it. That never happens. Or, as long as the physical state of the chair is the same, and you sit on it in the way that you normally sit on it, the same results are going to happen. And these rules allow us to do all sorts of things. They allow your computer to turn on every time you click on. They allow your phone to function. They allow your car, when you turn it on, it also turns on. They make sure that the ceiling is not falling on your heads, right? And so we do use these laws of physics, and these laws of physics, what they do is they take, some set of physical objects or physical materials, and these physical objects or physical materials are governed by physical laws. And if you apply the physical laws to these physical materials, you'll get the next state that they're going to be in. So if that's the case, then here's how you can imagine it. Imagine the whole universe, everything in the universe, okay? And that's everything in the universe is physical. So now you have this physical state of the universe, and now you take a snapshot of it. Now everything is frozen at this one moment. So what tells you what's going to happen the next moment? Well, if you take that physical state and now you apply all of the laws that govern every object in that universe, then you're going to get the next physical state of the universe. And so, from there you can get the next state and the next state and the next state. This is just to say that, if I want to figure out where the billiard ball is going to go, I don't really have to hit the billiard ball. I can just apply some mathematical equations that will tell me how the ball will move from moment to moment. And we use this stuff all the time. Well, if that's the case, so here's now how we can say it. We can say that for every physical event, so anytime something happens physically, for every physical event, there is a sufficient physical cause. So in other words, there's a cause, or there's another physical, so for every physical event, there's another physical event that comes before it that is the sufficient cause of this second physical event. So if something is going to happen now, then what is happening now is the result of what happened before, and what happened before explains or is the cause of what is happening now. So now here's what you can say. You can say, well, look at you, you're also made of physical stuff, you're made of meat, and this meat is made of cells, and these cells are made of atoms, and there's laws that govern the behavior of atoms, so there's laws that govern literally every part of you. So if that's the case, then doesn't this seem like you're going to be like the rest of the universe, that you're going to operate according to these laws, and these laws are going to determine your behavior? So the fact that you're behaving right now in this way, there was some previous physical state that you were in, which when this physical state was there, plus all of the laws, you would get what you're getting right now. And so it sounds like you're just like a very complicated machine. If we had a good enough, scientific system, we could just plug in your behavior at this moment and derive your behavior in the next 10 minutes or, 10 minutes later, or maybe even a year later, or, hundreds of years later. This is what we can do with regular physics or regular chemistry, so why can't we do it with you? After all, you're governed by physical laws, chemical laws, electrical laws, biological laws, and so on. So, if you guys want, you can also think of there's a good movie for this, the movie Minority Report. It's also a short story. In fact, the short story is better than the movie. But in Minority Report, this is exactly what happens. They have these, precogs who are able to figure out how people are going to behave into the future. And so that's determinism, that's physical determinism. And what it tries to show you is that you thought that you could have watched this video right now or watched it some other time, But in fact, given the physical causes or physical events that had happened in the past, there was no way for you to not end up watching the YouTube video right now. So, in other words, for every physical event, there is some prior physical event that is the sufficient physical cause of the latter event. Okay, um, that's physical determinism. And now you might be like, but Rami, you're kind of misleading us because, in fact, we humans are not just these physical things, right? We are, physical and mental things, or, we have a soul or something like that. The problem is that's not really going to help you either. And the reason that's not going to help you is because of this other view, which we can call reasons determinism. So here's what reason determinism says. It says, look, take your behavior right now. When you chose to play this YouTube video, you had a reason for choosing to play this video. Well, actually, you can choose. Did you have a reason for playing this video right now, or did you not? If you didn't have a reason, then you just did it without any reasons. So you kind of did it randomly. But if you're doing things randomly, then that doesn't mean that you're free. It just means like you're, suddenly something happens, right? It's got nothing to do with anything, right? There's no reason behind it. If somebody acts and they have no reason for the way they're acting, then they're just behaving randomly. That's not freedom. So then you did do it for a reason. You chose to play this video at this very moment because you probably had reasons like, oh, I need to do my assignment and I have some free time now, and the teacher just uploaded this. Sorry about the lights. So then you might, um, have played the video right now for those reasons. Well, okay, now let's take a look at your reasons. How did you get these reasons? Well, probably the way you got these reasons is that your past experience and the sorts of things that you're into. For instance, if you're very studious, then the moment the video is uploaded, you are likely to play the video because that's the sort of person that you are. Now, why are you like that? So you have certain reasons right now that you're applying, but these reasons are based on some past experience. Now take a look at your past experience. In your past experience, you also behaved in some ways. Well, did you behave in ways that were according to reasons or not according to reasons? Again, it sounds like you have a choice. If you say that in the past I was behaving for no reason at all, then it looks like your behavior is random. But if you, oh man, I don't know what to do about this. Sorry, guys. I think it's because, the sun outside is either coming in or coming out. I can tell you it's freezing out here. Anyhow, so the issue is that, the reasons that you had in the past, you either had reasons in the past or you didn't have reasons in the past. If you didn't have reasons in the past, then again, your behavior was random. If you did have reasons in the past, then those reasons were based on also your prior experience. So now if we keep going back in this chain, it sounds like what you're doing right now, the reason for it is some stuff that happened to you in the past. And the stuff that you did in the past, you also had some reasons for doing it, which came from your past. And then if we keep going back all the way, we're going to get to a point where your reasons were outside of your control or ones that you didn't really choose. Maybe your parents asked you to do certain things or got you to think in certain ways. Maybe even your genetic dispositions caused you to behave in these ways or act in these ways. And so it looks like you're not the ultimate cause of the reasons behind your behavior. If you're not the ultimate cause of the reasons behind your behavior, then it sounds like you're not free. You're behaving for certain reasons, and these reasons, if we trace them back, they go outside of your control. So here, we're not saying that every physical event has a physical cause. We're saying that every reason that you have right now for behaving as you do is coming from some past behaviors and past reasons, and those behaviors and past reasons go back all the way until they're outside of your control. So insofar as I'm talking about reasons, I'm not really just saying that you're a physical system and you don't have a soul or whatever. If anything, if you do have a soul or you do have a mind or you do have a consciousness, that consciousness operates through these reasons, right? And now it looks like the reasons are outside of your control just as much as your physical behavior is outside of your control. So now it looks like when you chose to watch this video right now, you did it because of these physical causes and because of the reasons that you had, and both of those seem to be dictated by events that came before them. Okay, so that's determinism, in a nutshell. Um, I should say there's a lot more to be said about it, and there's also, these are just kind of like the classical versions of determinism. There's more complicated variants and variants that are kind of better. I mean, philosophically better, because there's lots of objections that you can raise towards these ways of presenting these versions of determinism. In any case, that's a determinism problem. Now let's talk about the fatalism problem. Let's see if I have it over here. So fatalism is different from determinism. Determinism is focusing on determinism is focusing on the way that our behaviors are and our reasons now are determined by past events. Fatalism doesn't say this. Fatalism says that whatever happens, happens necessarily. So it makes no mention of what happened immediately in the past. It just says that if something is happening right now, it's happening necessarily. It means that it couldn't have not happened. Sorry, I'm trying to do something about this. Okay. So it says whatever happens, happens necessarily. This means that if you watch the YouTube video at this very moment, then you did so necessarily. And if I'm describing this stuff right now, I'm doing so necessarily. And when, the lights are getting messed up in the video, they're getting messed up necessarily. So this is what fatalism says. It says whatever happens, happens necessarily. It doesn't say things will happen no matter what, because that's ridiculous, right? I mean, if I say, you're going to end up in Scotland no matter what, well, what if I don't travel to Scotland? Then I'm not going to end up in Scotland. You can't say that things are going to happen no matter what, because some things have to obtain for them to happen. But it's better to say it as, whatever happens. So when something happens, it happens not accidentally, not it could have happened or not could have happened, right? It happened necessarily. This is what fatalism says. And there's lots of different ways to get to fatalism, but the kind of the simplest way to think about it is to think of it in terms of God and God's knowledge, okay? So here's the idea. The idea is that, at least according to monotheism, like religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, God knows everything. So God is all-knowing. This all-knowingness means that God doesn't just know the past and the present, right? We know the past and the present too, but also God knows the future. So God has what we call foreknowledge. God knows events before they happen. Now, if God knows the future, then here's what seems to be the case. You can start by saying, you can give an argument of this sort. You say, God knows today that I will get grade X when this course ends. Now, this course hasn't ended, and you don't know what grade you're going to get. And since I haven't graded your assignments yet, I don't know what grades you're going to get. But right now, at this very moment, God knows what grade you're going to get. So it looks like, insofar as God has foreknowledge, insofar as God knows everything, and as a result knows the future, that God knows what grade you're going to get. And He knows this before you or I know what grade you're going to get. Indeed, before you even write this paper. And in fact, you can go back even further. You can say at the very beginning of the universe, God knew what grade you were going to get, because God knew that God was going to create you, and that God was going to create me, and that God was going to make it such that there was a university called LAU where this class would be offered, and that these would be the conditions, and at some point you would get graded, and that's the grade that you were going to get. So God knows today that you will get grade X when this course is over. Okay, so if you do not get grade X when this course is over, then God will have been wrong. This sounds like also a plausible premise. So the first premise says that God knows right now what grade you're going to get. And if you don't get that grade, that's the second premise, if you don't get that grade, then God will have been wrong about what grade you're going to get. Um, Now, here's the thing, God can't be wrong, God's always right. In fact, if God knows something, knowledge entails truth. You can't know that the moon is made of cheese because the moon is not made of cheese. And if God knows that you're going to get grade X and you don't get grade X, then God was wrong. God didn't know that you were going to get grade X. So now you can say, God knows today that I will get grade X at the end of this course. If I don't get grade X at the end of this course, God will have been wrong, but God is never wrong, so then I will get grade X at the end of this course. So this pretty much means that neither you nor I are free in you getting any grade outside of grade X. Because if I give you a different grade, then I will have made God wrong, and I can't make God wrong. And if you get a different grade somehow by writing a different paper, then God will have been wrong, and you can't make God wrong. So it sounds like you and I are just, kind of playing out what it is that God knows already. In fact, at the very beginning of the universe, God had decided what grade that you were going to get. And if God knew what grade you were going to get, then there was no option of you getting any other grade. So whatever grade you were going to get, and this is the grade that God knows, that grade is the grade you're necessarily going to be getting. Okay, so that's fatalism, and as you can see, it's not an argument that depends on talking about, past events determining future events. It's rather about that the things that are happening necessarily. Okay, so let's now just think a little bit about how these arguments are in conflict with free will, because so far we've just talked about what determinism is, and we've talked about what fatalism is, but we haven't talked about what free will is. And now, you know, um, the way we've been kind of implicitly talking about it in the discussion that's just happened is that we've been saying things like, well, you could have, watched the YouTube video right now, or you could have watched it at some other time. So it sounds like, although you did watch it now, it was possible you had the power to watch it at some other time. So we're saying that you're free to have watched this YouTube video just in case you could have watched it at some other time. You didn't watch it at some other time, you watched it right now. But the existence of that alternative, that possibility that you didn't take, is part of what makes your action free. It sounds like if you didn't have that alternative possibility, so you don't have two options, you just had that one option, then it sounds like you're not free. You took this option because you watched the video right now, but it could have been the case that you didn't watch it right now and you watched it at some other time, so that means that you have a second option. So then what we're saying is that you're free just in case you have the power to do other than what you in fact did. What you in fact did is to watch the YouTube video right now, but if you had the power to not watch it right now, then this is what it means for you to be free. You would be free insofar as you don't have to watch it right now. You could have watched it at some other time. Okay, so now if you look at this definition of free will, you can start to see why determinism and fatalism are a problem. Because both of them are saying that whatever is happening is necessarily happening. It means that there are no other options. According to the determinist, what happened in the past determines one particular future. And according to the fatalist, the present or the future that exists necessarily, as does the present, as does the past. So both of them seem to suggest that there aren't two alternatives, there aren't more than two alternatives, there's just one path forward. And so now, if free will requires more than one path forward, and fatalism and determinism both show that there isn't more than one path forward, then it sounds like you most definitely are not free. Okay, so now the question is, what do we do? Now, I said in class, that this tells us that if you adopt this definition of free will and you take determinism, and now in this case, they're not compatible. You can't both have free will and determinism be true. So since they're not compatible, we usually call this incompatibilism. And now incompatibilism just says that determinism and fatalism and free will are not compatible with each other. If they're not compatible with each other, then we have to reject one of them. Either we have to reject determinism or fatalism, or else we have to reject free will. We can't have both, they're not compatible with each other. So if you reject free will, then you're what we call a hard determinist, or alternatively, if you're a fatalist, then you're a fatalist. Um, by contrast, you can reject fatalism or hard determinism, and now you can say that you're a libertarian because you believe in free will. I said that we can kind of imagine Sartre's view to be a sort of libertarian view, although that's not quite right. Um, but yeah, don't worry about it. The important thing is to just understand that incompatibilism is the view that free will and determinism are not compatible with each other. And we're also going to be using it as fatalism and free will are not compatible with each other. And so we have to reject one of them. And if we reject free will, as I've been kind of arguing right now, then we're going to be what we call hard determinists or fatalists. Okay, by contrast, there's another view, though, that says that no, this is all wrong. We can accept determinism and we can accept fatalism, but these are compatible with free will. The problem isn't that determinism is false or that fatalism is false. The problem is that our definition of free will is what's really false. We assume that free will requires that you have the power to do other than what you in fact did, but you don't really need that power in order to be free. So let's see what the argument is there. Okay, so here's what soft determinism says. So just so I'm clear, basically, we said that incompatibilists think that free will and determinism are not compatible, but then there's some other people who think that free will and determinism are compatible. Now, these people are called soft determinists, okay, or sometimes compatibilists. And compatibilists basically say the following. They say, look, we shouldn't deny determinism. Obviously, determinism is the case. We make use of it in science, and it sounds like it helps us build things, and we appeal to it. We assume it all the time anyway, and it does seem like we're made of physical stuff, and so it sounds like our behavior is going to be governed like other physical stuff is governed. And at the same time, it sounds like we do things for reasons. So it seems like we shouldn't really deny determinism. So here's then what the problem is. The problem is that we've been defining free will in the wrong way. And now the way they try to get at how we're defining free will in the wrong way is that they point out the following. They say, well, why does free will matter? Actually, the reason free will matters for us is because it's what allows us to hold people responsible. You want to say that you're responsible for the way that you are, that you dress in the way that you do, or you talk in the way that you do, or that you make the choices that you may end up making. These are your responsibility, and you can be proud of them because they're your own actions, or you can be ashamed of them. And at the same time, when it comes to other people, you blame them for doing things the wrong way, or praise them when they do things the right way. So we typically want to say that free will, or let's put it this way, free will matters because it allows us to hold people responsible. So now here's what the soft determinist or the compatibilist says. They say, in fact, the free will we need for responsibility is not, having these two choices, either I actually did this, but I could have done that. This requires two different options, and this is not compatible with determinism, so you can't have that. They try to show us that, in fact, we have another definition of free will that's open to us, and this is the one that really matters for responsibility. Now, to get at this definition, I used in class these four scenarios, but the last two are the same. They're just kind of, one of them is an exaggeration of the other. And so here's what we said, right? Let's now go through these scenarios. So these scenarios were the ones that I painted as, Jones. There's this student in class. We're going to call him Jones, right? And then Jones is being threatened by a cheating bully, right? Where the cheating bully is a student in class who forces everybody to cheat on tests and papers and exams and so on, right? They're just somebody who likes to bully other people into cheating because they're the cheating bully. Okay, So now let's pretend, let's use me as an example. So instead of Jones, we're going to have Rami, okay? So here I am, I'm a student in class. This, you can imagine me as an undergrad, and I was in class, and there was this cheating bully, and the cheating bully forces everybody to cheat. And so now we're going to imagine um, three different scenarios involving me and the cheating bully, but in each of them, I'm going to have a different personality. So here's the first scenario. In the first scenario, okay, I'm just basically this guy who is very insistent on his way of life. I'm very individualistic. I only care about what I think. I'm not afraid of anything, and I'm just unresponsive. So we're gonna call me Rami the unresponsive. Here's what happens, okay? So now let's say that Rami the unresponsive, me, I get an assignment from the teacher and I want to cheat on this assignment. And so, I decide to myself, okay, I'm going to cheat. Now, what happens next is that the cheating bully comes to me and he picks me up and he says, listen, you better cheat. Now, because I'm Rami the unresponsive, I don't really care about what people say. I don't care about being beaten up. I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less about the threat of the bully or the bully himself. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. So now the bully, leaves and he's like, you better cheat. But here's the thing, I don't care about what he's saying. So I'm going to cheat because, well, I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to do what I want to do. What I want to do is to cheat. So fine, it is the same thing that the bully wants from me, but I don't care that the bully wants this from me. I'm doing this because I want to, and I don't care in the least about the cheating bully's threat. So now I cheat. And now, as it so happens, the teacher catches me. So now the question we want to ask ourselves is, am I responsible for having cheated? Well, it seems like I am responsible. After all, I cheated because I wanted to, and I wasn't threatened by the bully. I didn't care that the bully threatened me. Whether the bully threatened me or didn't threaten me, I was going to do what I wanted to do, and that was to cheat. So it sounds like if the teacher holds me responsible for cheating and fails me in the course, then I deserve to be failed in the course. Okay, so that's scenario one. We're going to call that Rami the unresponsive. Let's now consider scenario two. In this one, I have a very different personality. I am not super cool and don't care about what other people think. I'm actually really cowardly. So I'm actually a very fearful person. I'm really afraid of any bullies. I'm kind of traumatized by them, terrorized by them. And now here's what happens, okay? In this scenario, I'm not also a very good student. So the teacher gives me the assignment and I look at it and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, okay? So now I'm Rami the fearful, but I also make the same decision. I'm going to cheat. Then the bully comes to me, picks me up, and he says, listen, Rami, you better cheat. Now, I'm so afraid of this bully that I completely forget what I wanted to do. I'm like, whatever you want, I'll just do whatever you want. What do you want me to do? He says, I want you to cheat. I'm like, whether I wanted to cheat or didn't want to cheat, it doesn't really matter what I wanted before. What matters is that the bully is asking me to cheat, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to do it because the bully wants me to do it. I'm just terrified of bullies. So now I cheat. Now let's say the teacher catches me in this case. Can they hold me responsible for having cheated? Now, on the face of it, it looks like they can't really hold me responsible because maybe I wanted to cheat before, but I didn't cheat because I wanted to cheat. In the end, the bully's threat is what forced me into cheating. It forced me into cheating because I'm so terrified of bullies. So whether I wanted to cheat before I met the bully or whether I wanted to cheat before I met the bully or didn't want to cheat before I met the bully, none of this mattered. It didn't really matter what I thought. What really mattered is that the bully threatened me. And the moment the bully threatened me into cheating, I cheated because they threatened me. And if they had told me don't cheat, I would have also not cheated. I would have done anything they said. So now when the teacher catches me and says, Rami, you cheated, well, it sounds like they can't really fairly hold me responsible because they can say, if somebody else, stood up for me, they would say, look, teacher, Rami didn't cheat because Rami wanted to. Rami cheated because the bully forced him to. And that would be true. So then it sounds like I'm not responsible. Okay. Well, these are the first two cases, and these are just to help us, with our intuitions. But now let's look at the third case, which is really the important case. So here's this case. In this case, Um, in this case, we're going to say that here I am again, and I'm again in class, and I'm confronted with this option of cheating or not cheating, and now I have a different personality. So on the one hand, um, I'm somebody who is very reasonable. You know, I'm impressed when people threaten me. Right? If somebody threatens me, by saying, "Listen, I'm going to beat you up," I don't want to be beaten up. That makes sense, to not want to be beaten up. So I listen to these sorts of things. At the same time, I'm somebody who's very committed. So when I decide that I'm going to do things, I follow through with my decisions. So here's what happens in this case. I get the assignment. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. What I want to do is I want to cheat. So now I commit to cheating. I'm Rami, the committed, but I'm also rational. So I now say, okay, well, I don't know how to do this. I want to cheat. Now the cheating bully comes, picks me up, says, listen, Rami, you better cheat. And now I think to myself, wow, I'm really terrified of this bully. Whatever this bully really wants from me, given how bad this threat is, I would really follow what they want me to follow. But here's the thing, the bully wants me to cheat, and I already wanted to cheat. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what I wanted to do. Um, if I didn't want to cheat before and the bully came and threatened me, I would have changed my mind. But as it so happens, what the bully wants and what I want are, on par. Or they're the same. So since I wanted to cheat, and now the bully is threatening me, and I'm impressed by his threat. I'm impressed by his threat, but I'm not going to change what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, which is what I wanted to do. So in this case, I commit to cheating, and now I cheat on the basis of my commitment to cheating, and I'm threatened by the bully, and this threat by the bully impresses me such that I think to myself, had I not wanted to cheat, I would have cheated. But, since I wanted to cheat, I'm just going to go ahead and cheat because I want to cheat. Well, now if the teacher caught me, it again seems like we should really say, I'm responsible for cheating. After all, I cheated because I wanted to. Sure, the bully, made it such that if I didn't want to cheat, I would have come to want to cheat. But the reason I'm cheating right now is because I want to. Okay, this is then the third scenario. And now here's what should impress you or should be interesting about the third scenario. Is that in this third scenario, it looks like I cheated because I wanted to, and we hold me responsible for it. But here's the thing, I couldn't have chosen otherwise because the bully would have intervened and forced me to cheat. So I only had one option. It looks like I only had one option, but I'm nevertheless responsible. So it looks like free will doesn't require, or at least responsibility doesn't require that I have more than one option. Just having one option is enough. And what really matters is that you're doing what you want to do, not that you have the power to do other than what you in fact did. Now, scenario 3 might seem a little bit confusing, but you can now, use scenario 4, which is just an exaggeration of scenario 3. So let's say that the cheating bully is actually a more sophisticated cheating bully than the one we had in the previous scenario. Here's what this cheating bully does, okay? He, again, I'm Rami the student, and I'm, being given an assignment. And now, here's what the cheating bully does. This guy, let's call him, he's not cheating bully, he's the cheating genius, okay? So a cheating genius is this, very, very, very smart student, and he's really like, well connected, right? And, he has access to lots of empirical knowledge, but also lots of power. So here's what this guy does. This guy, the cheating genius, is committed to having everybody cheat in class. So here's what he does to us. The day before any assignment, he goes into our houses. Specifically, he goes into my house, okay, and he kidnaps me. And he puts me to sleep, right? And goes, kidnaps me. He opens my head and he plugs in a chip. And here's now what this chip does. The chip is something that he can click, and once he clicks it, he can take control of me and make me do what he wants. So then he puts back my head, puts me back to sleep. I never know that anything happened. So to my knowledge, I went to bed at night and I woke up in the morning, and that was all that ever happened. but now I have this chip in my head, which the cheating genius had put there. And now I walk into class. The teacher gives me the assignment, and I realize that I really, don't know how to answer this assignment, and so I decide to cheat. But here's what this, cheating genius can do. If any student in class decides not to cheat, the cheating genius will just click this button and make them cheat because he can take control of their behavior. So whatever I wanted, okay, the cheating genius could just click this button and force me into cheating. But since I wanted to cheat when I saw the assignment and I end up cheating, okay, the cheating genius never clicks the button, never takes control of my behavior, and never forces me into cheating. He doesn't force me into cheating, but if I had not chosen this, if I had not chosen to cheat, he would have forced me into cheating by clicking the button. Now, let's say I get caught. Can we pin my responsibility on the cheating genius? Can we say to the teacher, oh, Rami's not at fault, you know? No, it again sounds like you have to say, it's my fault. Sure, I have a chip in my head, and this chip would force me into cheating had I not decided to cheat, but I decided to cheat. I did what I wanted to do, which was to cheat. So I'm responsible for it. Again, you can see that I don't have two options because had I tried to choose this option, the cheating genius would have used the chip, which would have collapsed this option back into this option. So I only have one option, the option to cheat. Still, it sounds like we can hold me responsible. Had the cheating genius clicked the button, maybe you wouldn't hold me responsible. But in this case, they didn't click the button, and I nevertheless cheated. So I cheated because I wanted to, and that's really what the problem is. So, what are these cases trying to show us? They're trying to show us that, in fact, it could be that you just have one option going forward, and that's not a problem when it comes to your freedom. What is a problem is when you are doing something because you want it, or what matters for us. Sorry, I said that a little bit wrong. So let me just try again. The idea is that what really matters is that we're doing what we want to do, and that's when we hold people responsible. When people want to cheat, that's when we hold them responsible for cheating. And when they don't want to cheat, we hold them, we praise them for not cheating. We don't really care about what power they had to, if they had alternative options than the ones that they had. What matters to us is did they do what they wanted to do, and that's what makes us hold them responsible. So it sounds like we have an alternative definition of free will. Instead of saying free will is the power to do what other than what you in fact did, we say free will is the power to do what one wants to do. And now, if it's about wanting to do what one wants to do, then this is not immediately in conflict with free will or, with fatalism or determinism. Because those, fatalism and determinism, just say you have one path forward. But if this path forward is the path that you want to take, then you're definitely free. So this is what gives you the compatibilist point of view. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to cut the video a little bit suddenly. But, this is the main point, so then we now have we can see two different points of view, one which thinks that free will is compatible with determinism and fatalism, and one which sees free will as not compatible with fatalism and determinism. The definition of free will which is not compatible is the one where you say that free will is the power to do other than what you in fact did, because this seems to require these two options. Whereas if you say that free will is just the power to do what you want to do, this doesn't make a reference to a second option. So even if you just have one option, but it's the option that you want to do, then you're free. So let's say, God knew that you were going to do X on, a future date. Well, as long as you wanted to do X, then God hasn't, in a way determined you, or hasn't forced you to do X. You did X because you wanted to, and this is what makes us hold you responsible for it, and this is what makes you free. So free will doesn't require having these alternative options, and since it doesn't require these alternative options, it's not incompatible with determinism and fatalism. Okay, well, this is a summary of the lectures that I gave in class, and hopefully these will help. And I guess one more video on psychological egoism on Tuesday.